Hello, and welcome back to the Elevate Your Running podcast. This is Coach Sarah, and I'm excited to be back with you. I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving and you are in the midst of the holiday season. It's December. It doesn't feel like December in Colorado. We've had a very warm fall, which I have loved for the most part. I think it's a little bit scary thinking about global warming, and it's been really great for my mind to be out in the warmer weather as long as possible. So, this episode is going to be all about off season and base building training, and really the season that's kind of in between those two, and how to know which one is right for you. And guess what? They're all right for you. So I'm going to talk about the benefits and the why behind why we should take an off season. And then maybe that season that's a bit more flexible. That's the season that I'm in right now. That's not exactly an off season. Not exactly a base building season either, but it's more of a flexible season. And then talk about the benefits of the base building season and why you can have all three and why they're really important as we head into 2026, because chances are you have some races on the calendar for next year. And maybe that was something that you decided a while ago, or maybe you had your hand forced a little bit to sign up for races because races are selling out at record pace right now, and it's very exciting because that means that there's more people in the running community training and signing up for races, and we're in a running boom right now, which is very, very, very exciting. Like, the more people doing this and finding the life lessons and the values and the communities and the friendships and the relationships through running is really cool. And that's so awesome. And it also means that we need to have our year of racing ready to go and sign up for those races as soon as we are ready to commit. And that leaves me in a very interesting place to be, because I don't really know what I want to do next year. And I know I need to make some decisions quickly. So I have at least some options available. But 2026, I know, is going to be a fantastic year. So many of you could be coming off of your 2025 racing season. We have CIM, we have the Phoenix Marathon, and we have the Marathon Project at the end of December. We have the Valencia Marathon all in December, which is great. We have the Houston Marathon in January, so you may or may not be training for Houston. But for the majority of us, we are through our A goal races of the year. So what comes next? Well, the off season comes next. I think it's very important that everyone take an off season. And if you're someone like me who maybe didn't want to take an off season or didn't take a very long off season, chances are it's going to sneak up on you and then you're going to wish you did take a longer off season, or you might be in a place where I am now where it's a bit more flexible because you can't really commit to anything training wise, but you also don't want to stop running and lose the fitness that you've built over the last several years of running. So an off season is super important, not just physically, because we're coming off of a really big training cycle. We have pushed our body really hard, but we have also pushed our mind really hard. And it's really important to let the mind as well as the body recover. And this is going to be a season where you're not running. So many of us know this as like the week after the marathon, but I think it's also really important and okay to take more time off after that. I've taken, I think my longest, like, quote unquote off season of no running was after my first marathon. I took 2 full weeks off. I didn't want to run. I had niggles. I was experiencing a lot of soreness, a lot of discomfort. And I didn't want to run and I didn't want to force it. But when I started to run again, it felt good and I felt good. And it was a lot of fun to get back into it. My second longest off season was after running a breakthrough day for marathon number 7, which was last year in Indianapolis, running close to an 8-minute PR. I ran a 3:08, and I remember jogging across the street well after a week after the marathon, and I was still very sore, and it felt awful, to be frank. So like I took more time off, and that's okay. I think it's really important to know that every off season is going to look and feel a little bit different based on maybe what you produced in that race, how long that training cycle was, maybe how many training cycles you stacked before that, and what you have coming up in the next year. So I don't really recommend this being longer than a month. I think it's important that we do kind of get back into some cross training or some sort of movement plan or movement of some kind. And maybe that looks like I want to move 3 or 4 times a week. I don't really know what days of the week those are, but I'm going to make sure that at the end of the week that I get my 3 or 4 in for the week. That can be a nice compromise. If we take too long of an off season, we risk the chance of detraining, which isn't really, I think, what any of us are going for if we're striving to be faster, stronger, better athletes in 2026. So it is a really fine balancing act of making sure you're giving your body and mind enough recovery and rest, and on the flip side, being able to like spend more time with friends and family and do social engagements, the things that you probably had to say no to in the course of your big A goal training season. And leaning into that is really important too, but we don't want to let that get out of hand. And I think it's really easy to let it slide, because after a few weeks, you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much time in my schedule. I feel so good. I'm refreshed. I'm able to do all the things that I couldn't do before. And I got to take care of maybe things on my to-do list or things that I couldn't get to when I was training hard. So now I'm catching up, and this feels really good. So it's a fine balancing act, because it can be a very slippery slope into all of a sudden you look back and you're like, whoa, it's been 6 weeks or 8 weeks and I haven't really run since my A goal race. Detraining has definitely already happened at that point. So we want to make sure that we're getting back into it. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, you have your base building phase. Now, this is going to be a phase that can be anywhere from a month to 3 months or 4 to 12 weeks of training. I want you to think of it as more of like structured training. So you have a schedule, you have, your daily run. You are focusing on more strength training in this season because we are lowering the intensity. So maybe the workouts are very short workouts, or you're running only strides or hill repeats and reducing like all the track workouts, all the tempos. But you could be bumping up your running mileage, your weekly mileage, your monthly mileage. Your strength training has definitely increased. You are lifting heavier, maybe you're lifting more often. And this is going to be kind of that season where you just get really strong, and you don't just get strong by running a lot of mileage, but you're getting stronger in the gym too. And that's a really great place to be. I think this is a really fun season because it still kind of is a lighter mental load. So you could be running just a lot more easy miles. So maybe before you were running like an 80-20 approach where 80% of your volume was easy and 20% was higher intensity. This could be more like 95-5, right? Where there's just a very small piece to your training that you are keeping the intensity. I highly recommend making sure that strides are still part of this base building phase and season. Hills are great. They're very powerful. They create a lot of power. They create a lot of strength, which ultimately create a lot of speed. They also create a really strong running form, which is also fun. And they're lower intensity. You have a less risk of getting injured by running hills and hill repeats, which is fantastic. So this season really prepares the body for a more demanding training season, which is what you ultimately want to have if you're going through, let's say you just went through a marathon training season and you had, you ran a PR, but you want to have like that breakthrough PR. You want to have a 5-minute PR. You want to break 3. You want to break 4. You want to break 3:30. This season is going to help you feel a lot stronger going into your next marathon build. And that's ultimately what we want. This season also gets to provide the opportunity to work on your long run and really just getting comfortable running 10, 12, 14-mile long runs. A few weeks ago, I got to run my first 14-mile long run after running the Chicago Marathon, and I got to run it with Coach Haley, which was a lot of fun. And she was in Boulder. She chose the route. It was a hilly route. It was probably something that I wouldn't have picked myself, but when we were running it and when we were finished, I was like, I'm really glad I did this because I wouldn't have chose this route, but this was like everything I needed. The run views were amazing. I think we gained almost 900 feet in 14 miles. It was all on dirt and some of it was single track. It was a lot of fun. We were both joking because we were like in our Nike, like red shoes, like on these trails. But anyways, it was a lot of fun, but I could tell at the end of the run, because it ended up being about 2 hours, I was starting to fatigue. I was starting to get tired. And it's like, yeah, I haven't really run 14 since before, I guess, during the Chicago Marathon, but which has been about 6 weeks from the time that I ran this long run. So that's all very normal, but we want to focus on that long run and making sure that we're just feeling really comfy and cozy running that 10, 12, maybe 14 miles in the long run. I don't really think we need to go longer than that. I think you're at risk of burning yourself out. I've been in a season where I was in a season of speed this spring and my long run was 14, 15 every weekend. And I got to tell you, after a while, it just gets like you're ready for something different, right? And I'd have a workout the day before. And so you're running that distance, or it was always about 2 hours and 10 minutes of time on feet, just feeling really tired and fatigued because I wasn't really recovering well after that workout. And, after a while that gets old, right? So you want to make sure it's a fine balance of doing what's right for you, feeling really, really strong with your mileage, with your strength training, with your schedule, but not doing so in a way that makes you mentally or physically fatigued going in to your next training cycle. So we definitely need that off season for more of the mental and the physical benefits and recovery, but the recovery benefits that we get for it. But then we also want to flow into that base building season as quickly as possible. It's going to help improve your aerobic endurance or that engine in your body. We want to have the strongest engine possible going into our next training cycle for maybe that half marathon, that 10K, that marathon. It's going to give us a really strong muscular skeletal system. And it's really going to enhance our metabolic efficiency. So it's just going to set this really nice foundation in our training. So I want you to think about it like the analogy that I talk about when it comes to running workouts and long runs. I talk about this a lot with the team. I've talked about it on the podcast. Think of like the workouts, the long runs, the tempo runs as like deposits into your training bank. Well, this base building season is really like that initial deposit that you're making when you open that savings account. So maybe you're opening a high yield savings account. You're making a really large donation, one big deposit at a time. That's what this season does at the end of the season. And then what happens when you make a big deposit like that into a high yield interest savings account? Usually you get like a nice interest or a dividend kickback or some sort of reward for that. And that's what this season does. I think it's a really great season to be in before you get into, your next big training season for 2026. I think it's really important to make sure that you're gradually increasing your mileage. It's not a dramatic increase. It's not high mileage right out of the gate. You want to take things slow. You want to be consistent. You want to build. This is going to be mostly easy paced runs, making sure that long run is long, making sure that you're getting into the gym, getting in that strength training. You're really developing your aerobic engine. You're still running strides, hill strides, maybe even hill repeats, which are a little bit different than strides, but they're all kind of one and the same. And you're creating a very strong body and mind before going into your next cycle. Well, maybe you're saying to yourself, well, Coach Sarah, I'm definitely not in off season, but I'm also definitely not in base season. Well, congratulations. You're in the season between. And this is the flexible season. This is the season that I get to be in as well right now. And this isn't a season that, I mean, it gets to be as long as however long you need. But it is a season where you do have some sort of a schedule that is, a weekly schedule that you have, but there's a lot of flexibility. And so that might mean that you're gradually increasing your mileage, you are gradually increasing your long runs, but maybe that workout, maybe you don't have a weekly workout. Maybe the workout looks and feels a lot different than what you were doing before. Maybe it's a very intentional workout for that week. Maybe you want to be running trails. Maybe you want to just dabble in a different type of long run, or doing, something like running a 14-mile long run with a friend who had 14 miles on her calendar. You didn't necessarily have anything. You're like, yeah, great, I'll do this, and jumping into it and seeing what happens. Maybe it's not adding strength training in, but you're participating in other sort of strength building exercises. Like, for instance, I'm doing a lot of single leg work. I'm doing like reformer Pilates. I'm taking yoga, and I'm also hiking a lot because the weather's been nice. And also I've been doing trail running. So that's like its own strength training in a different style. It's more flexible. I know I need to get in the gym. I know at some point I need to get back into more of that base building season, but I am really thriving in where I'm at right now, which is a lot more flexibility and just doing what I feel like doing for that day. And that includes daily mileage, that includes workouts. I am still doing like shorter workouts, and that's something that you can do in this phase if that's something you want to do. My mileage isn't sky high. It's very normal and neutral for me. I'm not overworking. I'm not overly fatigued. I feel great most days. And I have to say, every day that I wake up to do a workout, most of the time it's something I've like decided to do maybe the day or two before, and it changes. Every single week I change it, and it's based on like what I want to do that day, how I'm feeling. And so this is a very flexible season for me. This is a very flexible season that you can be in too. I think maybe the most important aspect to this type of season is that you are either A, still working with a coach who can help guide you with this flexibility, or two, you know your body so well that you can be very flexible with it. And jumping into a 14-mile long run with your friend, and you haven't run 14 since your race 6-ish weeks ago, that you'll be okay. You're not going to injure yourself. Or knowing that the style of workouts that you're doing, whether you're running them, maybe a little bit faster than you would have if it's in a training cycle, or you're just doing things a little bit differently, that it's all going to be okay. And you're not setting yourself up for getting injured or for mental burnout. If anything, the flexibility piece does provide a really lighter sense of training in some ways. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to do other things outside of my box that I was in for a really long time. And I loved that box. I loved that box so much. And I think over the last few months, I had to find a way to get out of the box to be able to have more flexibility, and just more of a lighter mental load, for this season in my running and in life. And that's okay. But I think the most important piece is that you know yourself, or you're working with a coach, or both. Like, what's great is that I am a coach and I know my body well enough to know what I can and can't do and what is going to be good for me and what's not. I have to say, I have had to check myself many times over the last month of not doing too much too soon. And even looking back on the last 6 weeks of training since Chicago, it was still maybe a little bit more aggressive than it should have been, but I'm feeling really good. My body's feeling really good. My mindset on a daily basis is pretty good. So like that's a big win for me. And I know this season isn't going to last forever. It can't last forever because I still have running goals that I want to train and race and see come to fruition. So I will get back into a base building season and then get into another cycle of training for a distance that is to be determined. So I think these 3 seasons are all seasons that you can dabble in. They are all 3 seasons that you can flow from your off season into a season of flexibility into your base building season before getting into your next training cycle. I think that's all okay. I think everyone's plan and what they are doing is going to look and feel very different for everyone. And a lot of it's based on what you want to do, what's going on in your life, what other commitments you have, where you want to get uncomfortable. For me right now, not having a race on the calendar is very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. I feel a little out of sorts. I've always been someone that's had a race on the calendar for the last 7 years. I've always had like, I race something and I know what my next race is. And I have some ideas on what I want to do, but I don't have anything. I am not registered for anything. I don't really have anything in my sights, and that's okay. You might be in the same season too, and that's okay. I think it's really important that whatever season you're in is that you're all in on that season and that you're comfortable with it, or you're comfortable being uncomfortable in that season, if that makes sense. And that's maybe a little bit where I am in this flexible season. And maybe that's where you could be in a base building season, because maybe you're used to running weekly workouts and running strides and hill repeats is maybe, pulling back quite a bit. But it is creating this really, really nice foundation for you to build on. And so I think right now, as we're in December, we're into the holidays, the days are only getting darker and shorter. It's only getting colder. This is a really great time to be in one of these seasons and to really lean into what is going to set you up for success in 2026. There's a lot of great things coming up in 2026. We have a lot of great races. We have a lot of great community events. There's so many incredible things that you can do in 2026. But the most important thing is making sure that you are physically and mentally ready for those seasons. And so this is the season where you get to be both of those things. And I love that for all of us. And I think it's going to be a really, really great 2026. I think if you are in an off season right now, don't sit in it too long. Make sure you're doing something to get out the door. So maybe you ran your first marathon. Maybe you're feeling like you ran a lot and you're feeling a little burnt out. So maybe it's enrolling 2 or 3 friends to run with you a few times during the week to get back into it. Finding the joy, finding what is going to make you feel happy and joyful, and that's going to be different for everyone, is going to be the key to your longevity in 2026. So, I think it's great that you have a lot of choices and you can do a lot of great things as you head into the new year. And hey, if you're looking to maybe work with a coach to elevate your training, elevate your running, elevate your relationships, your community, the Elevate Your Running community, we have a great team here. We have so much fun. We work hard, but we have a lot of fun. And Coach Amber, Coach Haley, and I all have one-on-one spots open. My virtual coaching spots are going very quickly. I have 1 or 2 spots open left for 2026. So jump on that. You can find more info on elevateyourrunning.com just slide over the tab Train Together, select that, and select one-on-one coaching. You can also send me an email at sarah@elevateyourrunning.com. We have group coaching available in Denver and Boulder starting in January. That's going to be fantastic. That's coached by me. Both of those are coached by me, so that'll be a lot of fun this winter. We are stronger together for sure. And I appreciate you all. I love you all. I'm so grateful for you and for this podcast and being able to help more people than just the athletes that I get to coach on a one-on-one and group training process. So thank you for that. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you again next week.